I'm your host of Keeping It Real with Rory, Rory Huskin. I'm here in the studio this afternoon with Aaron Aragon, and Aaron and I have known each other for a long time. My mom was actually married to your uncle, so I think that makes us related.
That does. That's a good thing. I'm glad to be related to you.
Even when, I don't know, when you were real young, we were going out on the boat. Remember, the way that I water skied, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Wish we could go back there, but
Yeah. Those
Anyway,
were
so
some good times.
I have this podcast, Aaron. It's a help program. I think that there's people out there suffering from addictions, and they think they're the only one. I'm the only one that's going through this problem. I'm the only one that's done these things, and I can tell you that you're not the only one that's thought up different ways to screw up and addict and all the stuff that goes with that. So,
Boy, you're right. First of all, I guess thank you for having me, Rory. It's a pleasure. But boy, I couldn't agree with you more. And I feel like when I meet with people, I tell them, first of all, you're not the only one that's going through this, whether they lost a child or a husband or someone suffering from addiction.
And that's not the only thing. I mean, it's like there's a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge and have been through a lot of stuff. And my thing is like, you need to be transparent. Somebody is counting on you to tell your story.
Absolutely.
And it's the reason I know that is like they drugged me. They dragged me to a FCA banquet one time, and Steve Foley was speaking. I mean, if you're
Broncos.
a Denver Bronco fan, you know who Steve Foley is.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to go to the banquet, but when Steve Foley started talking, I thought, now this is somebody that I can relate to, and this is somebody that I can, look up to, and so. He didn't know that I was counting on him to give his testimony.
Yeah, and that's how God works.
My question is who's counting on you?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody.
absolutely. Yeah, I know the first time I was asked to speak at Celebrate Recovery, I was super excited, and then whenever I started to rehearse, I got really nervous and was going to bail. I wasn't going to do it after all. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, and I had to go back into my life and remember this has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And to pull myself out of the equation and be like, I'm doing this to be humble and that hope that someone sees something in me and wants to change their life. So I had to take myself out of the occasion, totally out of the equation, to just to be humble and just to admit it. Like, here's where I messed up.
So between me and you, I never really knew you had a problem.
Yeah.
I was so lost in my own. Probably, and then, my recovery, but, there's, so in my experience, there's always been a catalyst, something that happens that send us down the wrong road. So do you know what that was in your life?
I think it's really hard to pinpoint. I think just a lot of things. I know one of the most devastating things that ever happened to me in my life was being molested at a very young age.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, by a male that I knew, a friend of a friend, and not being able to, didn't know where to go with that, and felt like you, at a young age, it scarred you. And maybe it kind of started there and then just casually started drinking. I'm a social person, so it was easy to go to the bar and meet people and have fun, and then it just turned into much more. And that's funny that you said that earlier, because people are like, I didn't know you had such a drinking problem. But when you're waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're going to the liquor store, yeah, you've got a real problem.
Wow.
And it was crazy to think that my life mirrored the movies. Like I used to watch movies and be like, boy, they're really screwed up. How could they get they get there?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but I felt like I was living my own movie.
Wow.
I remember grabbing the vodka and getting that
you
first
had
one
the
down.
DTs and everything.
Yes,
Wow.
I did. Yeah, and getting that first one down and it hitting your stomach, you're like, okay, now I'm good. I didn't even drink to get drunk anymore. It was just to sustain.
So I say that about and so my drug of choice was crack.
Yeah.
And I said that about my drug of choices. At some point, I wasn't getting high anymore. I was just getting back to normal.
Yeah.
it was crazy. Yeah, just crazy life, you know.
Yeah, that's funny because I don't think people understand that if you haven't been an addict before. But yeah, I just did it just to help maintain and help me get through the day and then eventually to
you know,
pass out.
even before I was doing the drugs, I would go out and drink with my buddies, and I don't remember getting home.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there were times, I mean, blackout, you know. Oh my God, I remember one instance. I probably should have died. I was trying to, I was upset, bummed out, and whatever I was doing, and had mezcal tequila with the worm in it, and I was trying to get that worm, and about 2/3 of the bottle down. I don't remember anything.
Oh man.
So
By God's grace, huh? We're sitting here
you know,
today.
and so, and it's always been God's grace. Yeah, I don't think that you know, that's not the things that I did was you know, it's I really wanted suicide by drugs, by alcohol. I didn't care. I really hated myself. Self-loathing, you know how that goes.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't care if I lived or died. I
Yeah,
didn't.
I was in the same boat. Yeah, I got to the point where, who cares?
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that I got that low,
Yeah.
and the enemy will take you that far. Like I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, alcohol, drugs, any kind of addiction will take you further than you've ever wanted to go, and
Yeah.
it's scary. And thank God I was able to flip the script. And
And it's weird because we can still think back to that first drink or that first hit, and I was like, yeah, now I'm not angry anymore,
Yep.
you know, but how that changes and turns on you at some point. So.
oh yeah, it's just a temporary high. You know, just everything's so temporary.
So so you knew at some point that you had a problem. I mean, what'd you do?
Yeah, it was weird. I obviously struggled, obviously, my whole life with alcohol. And I started going on binges right before I stopped drinking. I would go on 6 to 8 to 9 day binges, just drink and pass out and get up and go to the liquor store and do it again. Just completely had given up on life.
So you pass out and come to?
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah,
then I would go back to the liquor store.
I resembled that.
Yeah, it's insane, huh? So I think I went like 16 days straight. My mom and dad and my wife had called the cops, the ambulance, and no one could do anything because they would check me, my vitals, and everything were okay. It was insane, and I remember bits and pieces, but my wife and my family came down and said, you have to dry out. And they literally had to babysit a grown man and stand in front of the doors and say, you're not leaving. And I tried to get through the windows. I tried
Wow.
to call Ubers. It just didn't work. I finally called my wife and said, she had left for a little bit, and said, I'm ready, but I don't want to be driven to the hospital. I want to call an ambulance. I was in bad shape. I could barely walk. I was dizzy. Obviously, I probably didn't eat for 14 days. So I was in bad shape. I called the ambulance and got in there and laid in that gurney, and they took me to the hospital, and I was there for 4 days. I would say day 2 is kind of when I started to get some clarity, started to sober up, and I realized at that moment that I would never, ever, ever drink again.
Really?
You know?
So through the process, I mean, so when you and I believe a lot alike, and you know, in my circle, I don't believe at any point of my life that there can be a recovery without Jesus.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, so how'd that work out for you? Like,
Yeah,
what was happening?
Yeah, I think just being alone was good for me, and no one there. I remember the night, like yesterday, just sitting there staring up at the ceiling, and for the first time I surrendered.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, I can't do this on my own. Aaron's way doesn't work, and I forgive the people that have hurt me, and I ultimately know that I put myself here. No one's responsible for my actions. I drank myself to this point, and I'm not going to be play the victim card anymore. And at that point, I knew I was free, and that was God just saying, give it to me, son. Like, I'll take it.
Really?
And I finally laid down my pride and said, I give it to you. And I grabbed a piece of paper, and I drew a mark right down the middle. And I said, if I go home and I continue to drink, this is what's going to happen.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I'm going to lose my wife. And it was this order. I still remember, I'm going to lose my wife. I'm going to lose my kids. I'm going to lose my house. and I'm going to lose my business that my wife and I built from the ground, and ultimately, I'm going to die. So on the other side was the side of hope, and that side was, I love to talk about that side because
Yeah,
it was,
of course.
you know, it's the great side of hope. So the first thing was, I'm going to stop drinking, obviously, but then you got to begin with the end. Like, how's that going to work? What am I going to do? So I said, I'm going to join a gym. And I joined a gym. And then I said,
So how long ago was this?
This is about 2.5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yep, 2.5 years
crazy.
ago.
So, yeah, Aaron, you know, I used to see you in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, we've gone to the same gym. You know, our kids kind of grew up together, kind of.
Yeah, our girls are best friends.
Our girls were best friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a good deal older than you, but you know, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So
Most
how
people
crazy.
don't. And just those binges towards the end. But obviously, people saw me at the bar. People knew I had a drinking problem. I think I was a nice guy sober, but people saw the bad guy drunk. I wasn't a good drunk. Sometimes I
Neither
was,
was I.
but I was angry.
I had something to prove. You know, I was
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah,
I was talking to a
The
friend
victim.
of mine on the phone today, and he's in prison, and he said, Rory, you were angry.
Yeah, me too.
You know, you were a good friend, but you were angry, and you had something to prove. And I'm like, I did, and I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you had to face that. That's so much gratitude now that I was able to surrender. And on that list too was what's next. And I used to love to read, so I purchased Audible. And the first book I bought was on addiction.
Really?
Great book. I would go to the gym and I'd listen to my Audibles every day. And Basketball Junkie, great listen if anyone out there is struggling with addiction. It really helped me. So started with that, and then I finally was able to start listening to other books on healthy habits versus bad habits. Obviously, we know how that works, you know.
Of course, yeah.
Like getting up and going to the gym every day.
And by the way, even when I go to prisons and speak, I tell those guys that we need healthy alternatives for the negative stuff that we were doing.
Oh,
So I don't know
absolutely.
what that looks like to you. Hiking, biking, jogging,
All of it.
running, yeah, all of it.
All of
you know,
it.
whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Or gym. Mine was gym, and you know, not only was I looking better and feeling better, yeah, it was. You know, it just fit. You know, so.
Yeah, and I think that's just so important. And I tell people all the time when I meet with different people too, is like change means to do things different. That means you don't talk to the same people, you don't go to the same places.
Well, we have to change our playgrounds,
Yes.
playmates, and playthings, right?
Absolutely.
Because if nothing changes, nothing changes, right?
And those were, yeah, absolutely. And those were some lonely days, but I really got to figure out who Aaron is. And I was able to look myself in the mirror shortly after that and say, hey, you're going to be all right.
You know, it's funny. Not everybody knows. You know, I ended up in prison because of my bad choices and my drug addiction and you know, I admire somebody like you, Aaron, that you didn't need that. You know how many times that like I would go down to the altar or pray and break down and, you know, say I just surrender and blah blah, you know, and it almost felt like I'd turn away from the altar and grab the drugs and leave.
That quick.
Know? Yeah, it was a. I actually think it was spooky, the thought of quitting.
Really?
I don't know. You know, what am I gonna do? Like you said, you know, what am I gonna do?
Because there was a routine, you think?
Yeah, there's
or
a
just,
routine.
Yeah, the norm.
You know, I don't want to look at myself. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. That's the reason that I was self-medicating in the first place.
Right.
So what am I going to do
Yeah.
now that I have to look at myself? So
Definitely, and I think that's just where the gratitude kicks in. At that moment, is you saw how low you could go without God, and now you have God, and you wake up every day, and you're just thankful to get out of that bed, and to.
I had this friend of mine today telling me that he doesn't think he knows how to pray, you know, in prison. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I think I'm praying wrong. He goes, I got to get the prayer right.
Really? What'd you tell him?
And I said, you know what my prayer was, brother? Don't let me go one day too soon. That was my prayer.
Wow.
Only you know, God, how long it's going to take till I'm free of the drugs forever.
I love that.
And I didn't care. You know, buddies would get angry because they wouldn't pro me. And I would just smile. You know, God's got me.
You knew God had a plan.
Yeah. So, you know, and my thinking was, look, they gave me 6 years. I'm going to hope for the best, expect the worst, and settle for anything in between. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if they'd have caught me for half the stuff I did, they'd never
It'd been a lot
me go.
more. Yeah.
So I was at peace. Yeah, I had pretty much surrendered that I was there and I wasn't going anywhere. So, but I got to tell you, the first 2 years I was in victim stance, like poor me.
Yeah.
Pour me a drink, pour me a line, pour me a hit. Right? That works in the world.
Yep.
When you're in prison, it's like it was pour me a nutty bar, pour me a zebra cake,
Yeah.
pour me a Twinkie, man. I was, so I was eating. I just eat and was angry and I was working in the kitchen and probably weighed 250, man.
Really?
It was not muscle,
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking one day, it's like, this isn't the way I want to live.
Yep.
And I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to be angry. I had to surrender, I had to surrender that and tell God at some point, like a year and a half into the thing, that, I'm done and I don't care, so.
And that's where he works the best.
My life changed, but.
Absolutely. He
So
gives
how about
us
you?
that hope. Just grateful to be alive and to be working in my gift for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that know me, family, friends, said, Aaron, you have a gift. People love you. You're a magnet to people. And I always knew I had a gift, but just felt like I ran from it, But now it's like, okay, I surrendered, and I believe I can help a lot of people, and that's my mission in life.
So that goes into the the redemption story. So yeah, tell people what God's got you doing today.
Yeah, so it led to me opening our own nonprofit called Zestful Balance. It's kind of a gym. It's a movement center. It's a gym for your body, your mind. We're going to reach out to the community, and whatever the community needs, we're gonna do it. We're gonna have classes on how to prepare for an interview. We're gonna have retired teachers come in and teach people how to build a resume. We're gonna give away, when you become a member, we're gonna give you a journal. We're gonna teach you how to use that journal, how to build a gratitude list. We are gonna have buses come in to do cancer screening. We've got 2 licensed therapists that are doing one-on-one therapy. They're doing group therapy. We've got a lady that's going to come in and teach an art class, just any kind of therapy in so many different ways. We're going to hit the community where we need it the hardest, mental health. God has called us to do that. We've been obedient and we're moving forward. We're excited.
And so this is happening when?
So we should be having our grand opening on August 15th. So that
August
marks
15th.
a month.
So it's coming
from
up.
today. It's coming up.
I had no idea it was getting that close.
We're getting really close.
My wife and I heard Aaron called me and explained the things that he was doing, and I was like, I'm all in. Let's do this. I'll help you. So.
And we thank you from the bottom of our heart. Yeah, you have been such a blessing.
So we're expecting too,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited to go hang out and watch miracles happen.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to change Pueblo forever, and I think it's never been done. It's outside the box, and we're willing to try anything. And if it works, we'll build on it. And can't wait to get you in there. And we just believe in movement as medicine. Come in, move, whether that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And connect with different people.
I do that every day. I mean, I'm like,
you have to.
And when I don't, and I remember even early on, my wife would say, honey, do you think maybe you need the gym? I'm like, yes, I do, on my way. So it's not quite that bad anymore. I probably, it's...
Toned it down a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I've been clean and sober almost 24 years.
Congratulations.
Isn't that crazy?
That's great.
24 years.
I applaud you.
Yeah.
That's good.
My life is pretty much a dream these days. I get to live the dream.
That's great.
People ask me, how's it going? I'm like, living the dream. But, I think a lot of times it's like they really don't get it, but I'm really living the dream, I'm living a life that I only dreamed about back when I was
behind
a
bars.
drug addict.
Yeah.
Or behind bars.
Yeah, look at
you
that.
know, yeah.
I love that the Bible says that too. He comes to give us life and life more abundantly. Yeah, and I tell myself that every day because it's a struggle. This has been a struggle to get Zestful Balance off the ground. But
Yeah, I heard somebody say the other day, it's like, because they're not happy. It's like, well, one of these days I want to live in heaven, And all I could think of in my mind is buddy, we can have heaven here on earth. We don't have to wait till we're in heaven.
True.
I'm living my best life today.
Yep.
And so could you if you it takes a choice. Just like drinking took a choice, recovery and making that decision took a choice. Everything that we do in life is a choice.
Yeah. So we're always just one decision away from changing our life, good or bad.
Isn't that, there's a song that says, I'm one mistake away from, I don't want to be the man that I left behind. So, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I was listening to Ed Milet today, and he was talking about, I believe he's 55. Do you know who that is, by any chance? Ed Milet. He's a motivational speaker, very successful, and they'd asked him the question, like, if you could have anything right now, what would it be? And he would say, to buy back to where I was like 25, like, your most precious thing is time. Like, if you were sitting there and they asked you to give you $1 million to spend 24 more hours with your family, well, what would you do? We would spend the time with our family. So time is the most precious gift that we have.
Have you ever asked people that? Like, what would you give to go back to your 25? And there's a lot of people that would tell you they don't want to go back.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I've had people say, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
And me, I think, wow, that's about when I started messing up. If I could go back and talk to that, I think it was
Younger
23.
self.
Yeah, it's like, hey, buddy, you really don't want to go down this path.
Right.
So, that's the reason I do what I'm doing today is if I can help somebody not to take that path, and tell them, look, man, the minute I did that line of cocaine that night, it's like I signed a contract with the enemy.
True. True. And I think it's so neat that you're living your purpose. And I know when we started to build Zestful Balance, your name came up like almost every other conversation, if not every conversation. So that's neat that you're giving back.
I like sowing back into people's lives. Yeah. People trust me. It's, I've been on boards and, I've had to be transparent with them. It's like, look, I'm a convicted felon.
Yeah.
And it's like, they told me that we don't know that person. We just know this person. And frankly, we like and trust this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, that was just so strange, that even with the past that I had, that people were willing to, and to me, that's big in my life,
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't I want to sow back into other people's lives?
And that's how God is. He's a God of second chances, and we can both sit here today and be like, thank God he never gave up on us, like we do with our children, you
I heard
still
somebody
believe
say
in them.
the God is the God of second and third wins
true.
and
Or
fourth
100.
wins,
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
he never quits calling,
Ever.
Yeah. So
Ever.
that's cool. So, well, I'm excited, man, for you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll definitely
So-
keep everyone up to date on what's coming soon, but we're excited.
I haven't done this podcast for a couple of years, and it's been eating at the back of my mind for all these years. So, I'm this is the maiden voyage second time, so we'll see how this goes, Aaron. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you thought of me, and I'm glad that we started back up
Yeah,
together.
well, I know that with the things that you're doing with, tell everybody what it's called again.
Zestful Balance.
Zestful
and
Balance.
we are a nonprofit. Yeah.
Cool. Well, got anything else to tell me? Right?
I think that's it. I appreciate you taking the time, and this is nice. I look forward to doing this more often.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
even find a better podcast room.
Yeah, perfect. Yep, we can meet at our building next time.
All right. Well, this has been Keeping It Real with Rory. Until next time.
Great. Thanks, Rory. Appreciate it.
Last night I had